That is one thing that I love about Ghana and about Ghanaians is that they speak their mind. So I feel like here in the UK, people don't say things and it festers inside them. And then one day, you might just have an issue. Whereas in Ghana, you hear on the street people, hashing things out. People just say what they think. If they think you're fat, basically, they're going to tell you you're fat. You know what I mean? Down to that, they will just tell you how it is. And I actually think that's healthy.
Hello and welcome to Grind, Hustle, Repeat, conversations around creativity and culture. I'm your host, Nee Odate Evans, and this is the show where we talk to creative entrepreneurs and discuss the ups and downs of their creative journeys, and hopefully by sharing, it provides guidance for others. Now, those that know me know my love for Ghana, all right? So you can imagine how excited I was to come across my guest today. So we actually met, and I say met, air quotes, whilst both being guests on Nihal Arfanayaka's BBC Radio 5 live show, talking all things parenting. But after the show, I did a quick stalk on socials, as you do, and I fell in love with her videos about Ghana. And I think it's fair to say there are very few doing more than she does to promote the homeland. Now, her YouTube channel boasts nearly 90,000 subscribers, and combined, her videos have received over 8 million views. My guest today on Grind, Hustle, Repeat is filmmaker, presenter, and podcaster, Vanessa Kanbi. Vanessa, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me here, Nee.
Thank you very much for taking the time out to be here. I appreciate it. It's a nice start to the year. I've missed this. I was like filming back to back and like had loads stacked up, and I was like, okay, we're coming to the end now, so let me start filming again. And then as I started doing this again, I was like, oh, I've missed this. This is nice. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So as I said, like for me at least, you've become a bit of an oracle on Ghana, and that's from someone who was planning to, me and my wife were literally planning to move there in 2011, and then she fell pregnant, and so then we stayed, and now we're still here, so nearly 8-9 years later, and we're starting to flirt with the idea again. And so your videos have been really helpful with that, so thank you. What made you start doing these videos around Ghana? Because initially, and I know you still do like motherhood stuff, but initially the motherhood stuff was more your focus, right?
Yeah, definitely. And even if I want to go back to that first radio conversation that we were both guests on, when I heard Nee, I was like, oh my gosh, she's from Ghana. And I'm sure I then DM'd you like, oh, hey, are you from Ghana? It's like that song Flavors that Stormzy's in, and it says, when she hears I'm from Ghana, she gets excited. When I hear anyone's from Ghana, I get excited.
That's totally me. That's totally me. I totally understand it.
So I first started my YouTube channel actually it's going to come up to 4 years ago now. And that is because previous to that, I lived in London. I modeled for like 10 years. I started a cold pressed juice company. I've been around doing random things. And then I had my second child, so my daughter, and I was at home, and I never intended to be like a stay-at-home mum. It's just, I like to be busy doing things, and I like doing things for myself as well. And I kind of felt like I was getting not lost in motherhood, but I did feel like I was kind of losing my sanity, like no joke. And so I thought, what can I do from home that's going to excite me? And then I came across, I should start a YouTube channel, because I'd been consuming so much YouTube content for years before. And also I loved documentaries. Like I watched so many documentaries. And so I started my YouTube channel. And initially, because I was at home with my daughter, it started off around parenting. And then I used to always go to Ghana every Christmas and every summer. But when I had my kids, that slowed down, because obviously I'm looking after children.
and the fare to get there is substantially a lot more.
Yeah, no, exactly. Oh my gosh, we'll get to that. But I just took my whole family, the 4 of us. It was extortionate. Like, so expensive.
Yeah.
So then when I went back, it was my cousin's wedding and I did a vlog and it did so well. So my other videos were maybe getting like a couple hundred views. When I went and did this Ghana vlog, I was getting like 40,000 views in a couple of days. And I thought, okay, well, obviously there's something here that people want to see. And it's somewhere that I love so much. My dad's from there. I've been going ever since I was 2 years old. I've always told my friends about it. You know, I've always been shouting about Ghana. Even friends in London that were from Ghana that hadn't been, I was like, come with me at Christmas time. So I was always like championing Ghana. And so I decided, you know what? This was maybe a year ago. I was like, let me just dedicate my whole channel to Ghana and see what happens. And it definitely
it's paid off. It's paid off. You mentioned your dad, and I was watching the video of you and your dad. And one of the things that really struck out for me, which I thought was great and really interesting, there's this stereotype of African Ghanaian parents being very strict. You must follow this academic route. And not really having time for the arts or anything like that. And that kind of came up in your conversation with your dad, where he was like, he was the opposite. How impactful do you think that's been on you being able to do what you do?
I think both my mum and dad, my mum always said, don't do things for money, because at the end of the day, you have to be happy. And if you've got all the money in the world, that isn't going to bring you happiness. And so she never really took promotions just for money. Like, she would stay doing the job she enjoyed. And then my dad, he worked for the NHS, but he also like followed his passions. And I feel like he kind of fell into working for the NHS for his whole life, but it wasn't his passion. So for me, like, ever since we've been younger, they've always said, you know, do what makes you happy. Like, you can do whatever. And I think if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to literally do whatever I wanted. I mean, and that's across the board. And even to down to like I really wanted to, you know, be a young parent. I had my son when I was 20 years old. Both my parents were like so in support of that. And I don't think that a lot of African parents, well, my dad being African, would be really in support of that. And then also, obviously, the creative side, they both were so in support of it. And even now, you know, my dad's obviously been on my channel and he really enjoyed it. And the other day I said, do you want to come on again? And he was like, yeah, I'm ready, you know, just bring me a bottle of wine. I was like, okay.
I predict your dad could be the breakout YouTube star.
I feel like if he was left free with a camera, it's not going to end out well. So we'll just regulate it to edited videos.
Rein it in. I understand. So outside of your mum and dad, who do you draw inspiration from creatively?
Well, I mean, I watch a lot of YouTube content, so I feel like I draw inspiration and motivation from people that I see online. Some of my favorite creators are Patricia Bright. Don't know if you've seen her channel. She's obviously like amazing, you know, has done incredible things.
I love the pivot, because obviously before, when she was doing the makeup stuff, I wasn't necessarily watching, but the new stuff that she's doing now about finance and kind of general lifestyle, I really love her content. But yeah, who else?
So I also, now specifically, I'm more drawn to like the African creators, because that is kind of like the space that I'm in. So there's someone called Tayo Aina. He creates incredible videos about Nigeria. Just his filmmaking alone is so great. And then another amazing Ghanaian YouTuber called Wodimaya. He is just so, he's constant. Like, you know, his uploads are all the time. I mean, we're now friends, and I interviewed him before. Did you see that interview?
That's why I'm laughing, because at the beginning of that video, I was like, this feels awkward.
He was like, I hate you and all that. And I was just like, oh my gosh. The worst thing about it was he'd never told me this before. Like, when I emailed him, he never told me that there was any sort of issue going on until we sat down.
Also, I feel like it's also very Ghanaian. So he's sitting there saying, "Oh, I hate you," but even though, like, so my British sensibilities are like, this is very awkward. I'm not sure how this is gonna go. But there's that Ghana in me was like, no, I understand what he's saying. I get it. Where it's not like I hate you, I want to kill you, but it was just, it was interesting watching that, thinking like, where is this gonna go? But he was definitely, after that, I was like, I have to check out more of his content. He's definitely a character.
That is one thing that I love about Ghana and about Ghanaians, is that they speak their mind. So I feel like here in the UK, people don't say things and it festers inside them. And then one day, you might just have an issue. Whereas in Ghana, you hear on the street people, hashing things out. People just say what they think. If they think you're fat, basically, they're going to tell you you're fat. I mean, down to that, they will just tell you how it is. And I actually think that's healthy.
You know what? I agree with you. I'm not gonna lie. There was a period where I went from one size to a little bit bigger, and so you start going to the family parties and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, but you are fat." And you're like, "Yes, auntie. It's lovely to see you too. How's uncle?" And there, and even I don't know whether you had this or not. So there's that kind of joke where, again, in the strict African parent households, where focus on your books, yeah. And then before you know it, they're like, "Oh, why don't you have a wife or a husband?" And so my wife and I went through that, where when we were together and we started going to these family parties, they'd be like, "Oh, when are you going to get married? When are you going to get married?" And then you get married, and it's like, "Oh, when are you going to have children? When are you going to have children?" And then you have children. "Oh, but he needs a sister or a brother." And it's never ending. And there's no filter in terms of, because when we had our first child, and we spoke about this on our podcast, we struggled to conceive in the beginning. So imagine like going through the thing of struggling to actually being able to conceive, and then going to these parties and then just being pelted in the face, like, "Where's the child? Where's the child? Where's the child?" And so at that point it felt, oh, this is a lot. But sometimes when you're in your feelings, you're just in your feelings, and kind of being able to take a step back from that, now you're just like, you know what, this is how they are. And it all comes from a place of love.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the child thing especially, and the marriage thing, I mean, I had kids young, so I didn't have that, but I know that my sister definitely, like, when she goes and sees my auntie, that's pretty much the only thing on their minds. And I think it can be a lot, especially for us in this generation where, people are trying to get careers and things before potentially settling down. And it is, it's just a lot of pressure, I think, for some people. And if you're having, issues having children, if you don't want to have children and you've got these family members just at you.
Yeah, I mean, even the idea of not wanting to have children is something that you can imagine the perplexed faces of, like, why wouldn't you? I don't understand why.
I tried to have this conversation, I won't really get into it, with my driver about basically about fertility and how some people can't have children. And it, honestly, we weren't getting anywhere. And I was just like, this was literally 2 weeks ago. But I just think it's, I guess it's just not, being, I won't even get into that side of it.
But do you think that, so, obviously I'm here in the UK as a Ghanaian in the diaspora consuming your content, but do you feel, number one, not a pressure, but a responsibility that also for Ghanaians in Ghana consuming your content, that perhaps there's a message or something that you want to kind of portray to them? So the conversations that we're having just now, having those conversations with them and saying, look, not necessarily saying you're wrong in doing this, but in thinking this, it does X, Y, and Z.
I definitely am somebody that's scared to say how I'm feeling and what I think. And I feel like I have very heated conversations, specifically with the driver that I use, because we're in the car so much and because he tells me his thoughts. But then I had this conversation with my dad and he said, but it's the culture. You can't change what's been going on for years and years. But in my opinion, I think I'm not necessarily trying to change. Well, of course, it's so difficult because it's obviously, you know, it's a culture, but I do think that I can say how I feel and obviously my experiences, and hopefully that reflects in somebody's thoughts or feelings about something that potentially has moved on in the rest of the world.
So 10 years from now, like, what effect would you hope that your work has had on the culture? Like, so again, the culture being Ghanaians in the diaspora, but also Ghanaians in Ghana.
I do think that my videos are more directed at Ghanaians in the diaspora, but obviously also Ghanaians in Ghana can consume the content. It's for anybody that wants to watch it. But in terms of my stats, it's like 50% in America, 30% in the UK. There's like 5% in Ghana.
Okay.
I have met people that have moved to Ghana off the back of watching my videos, which I just think is like insane, you know, but it's so amazing that I'm showing some people that have never been to Ghana and don't necessarily have like a direct connection, but they're African American and they're finding where they're from, have found my videos and then have moved to Ghana off the back of that. So just the fact that I'm showing somewhere that I love so much to people that might have not seen it before, and then maybe take action to even travel to see the country, that is the sort of impact that I would like to have. And I guess to the wider world, showing that there's so many amazing things happening in Ghana and that it's not necessarily what you see on TV. I do think that the narrative is changing. I don't know if it's really got to TV yet. That is one area that I do want to tap into. I do think it's difficult to get that sort of content on TV. I mean, I've had conversations with production companies and I don't think it's easy, but Ade Adepitan did Africa, the series on BBC. That was really great. I watched that and that showed different ways to travel in Africa and different things you can do. It didn't cover a lot of the things that I sort of cover, which is more like the luxury lifestyle, but obviously there's so many different things. That's the thing. There's so many different ways to live, travel in Ghana and across Africa that it's great to just see like the breadth of it.
So, as I said, it was 2011. The wife and I, we were. My wife, she has a company. She makes leather belts and apparel and stuff. And she had a showroom in Brick Lane, and we had packed up the showroom. We had shipped machines off to Ghana. Her sister was in Ghana at the time, and we were getting ready to go to Ghana to start this new journey in Ghana. And then she fell pregnant, and here we are. So this year, COVID, whatever, we're hoping to go as a family to Ghana. So for somebody who prior to 2011, who would go, I probably was there every year for the 5 years previous to that. So, you know, I was pretty across it. So for somebody that hasn't been for nearly 9 years, what would be your advice to me?
In terms of
in terms of what to expect, the change and
okay. So I would say that a lot changes in 10 years. I was thinking this. I remember when there was no malls. I'm sure that the mall, Accra Mall, must have been open when you were there last. But I do remember when there was no malls. So I think a lot changes. There's more malls now in terms of that shopping side. There's a lot more of really cool creative spaces, art galleries. There's somewhere that's just open called Ada Art Gallery. There's another one called 1957 in Kempinski. There's Kempinski, which is a really big luxury hotel. There's a lot of people, more people that have moved from the diaspora. I mean, even if you just look at Instagram just now, you'll see the amount of people that are there for the Christmas period from all over the world. I think it's just so amazing that it's becoming a place that people like to come to enjoy, you know, for enjoyment. And so I think there's a lot more people there. A lot more things are happening very fast. But on the face of it, if you're just driving down the street, there might be some better roads and that sort of thing. But it might just look
is the traffic situation still crazy?
Worse. I mean, that's the thing. The thing is that there's more people and the infrastructure isn't moving at the speed we need it to move at.
Right.
So it might be pretty similar, but I guess just a couple more establishments.
Fair enough. I was watching the video with your sister, and one of the things that she said that really struck me, which I thought was really interesting, was about people looking to come to Ghana and coming to get a job in Ghana, and having this idea, well, not this idea, this thing where there's two different sets of pay for an expat and somebody local to Ghana. And it reminded me, so as I said, going back to, I think this was like it was the year after. So my son is 2012 now, my son's just been born, and I'm still like, we're still gonna go. And my background was in IT, and I had an interview with Vodafone in Ghana. I had a telephone interview with Vodafone in Ghana. And looking back on it, it is the most arrogant that I've ever been towards a job interview. And it shames me to say that it really was. I just thought to myself, I'm going to get it. And then I did this interview, and then halfway through the interview, they're hitting me with these questions. And I'm like, oh, you're an idiot. You really thought you was going to walk this sort of thing. Is that kind of attitude still quite prevalent in Ghana, where you have the diaspora that are there and they're doing their thing, and they may look down on Ghanaians that they're actually working with in the same organization?
I mean, I guess because I've never actually lived there and I've just traveled in and out, I probably don't have the best perception of what people are like to other people. I think some people will look down on other people, like regardless of where they are in the world. And I do think that the pay situation, there's definitely, like an expat community, like outside of the sort of African diaspora expat community, who you see just with expats, just hanging about with other white people, basically, and not necessarily integrating, or even like the Chinese, hanging out with other Chinese people and not necessarily integrating. I'm not saying that's everyone, but, there is certain pockets of that you see. And definitely like some of them will be getting paid so much more than their Ghanaian counterparts, I think. And in terms of the African diaspora, I mean, we'd hope that obviously, because I'm guessing their parents or parents or whatever have come from, Ghana, have, experienced those people, that they're not looking down on others. But, I can't really speak for others.
Fair enough. So changing tacks a little bit, obviously last year was a crazy year, for some, for others not so much. How was it for you, and what have been your takeaways from the year?
So I lost my godfather, so that was like a really sad moment in the year. Taking that out of the equation, it was a pretty good year for me. I mean, my YouTube channel, in terms of career, it started at the start of the year, I was maybe on like 10,000 subscribers, and I ended the year on like 85,000 subscribers. My channel really took off. It became my full-time income, really good income. I got other work coming in. And this year, actually, I'll be a presenter on a BBC Sounds podcast, one of my goals that was on my vision board. So I can't wait for that.
Vision boards, they're so important.
Yeah. And also I have other things coming up this year that are really, really exciting. So I feel like last year really took me into the next level for this year. And I really just kept going. So for me, I decided at the start of last year I was going to upload on YouTube 3 times a week, and I didn't let anything come in the way of that, even though I literally couldn't go to Ghana. So I film, what I normally do is I go for a week and I film about 30 videos, and then I upload them 3 videos a week. And then I go again and film. But because I couldn't go, I had to adapt the way I did my content. So I did more online things, and I thought people wouldn't like it because I really don't like bad quality things. But people actually loved it. What I realized is people just want the information. They don't really mind how they are getting it. And so that really just kept me going. It made me realize that you have to adapt. You can't just sit and say, oh, this, I'm not a fan of people saying this is such a bad year. Can't wait till 2020 is over. I'm like, speak for yourself. And also, the other thing is I realized is how much we're not in control of. So I really want to, have a place in Ghana, grow my own food and that sort of thing. Not like every single piece of food that I'm going to be eating.
No, but yeah.
Some fruit and veg and the basics.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
And yeah, when the shops shut, or they didn't shut, I'm over exaggerating. When they tried to make it sound like the shops were going to shut, I just thought, hang on a second, I can't even grow a vegetable. We're so detached from reality, and we don't really think about how our food gets into the packet at the shop. We just sit and we go to the shop and we pick it up. And that isn't really the way it's meant to be. No. And so I think we were really just brought back to like homeschooling. That's probably how it was as well back then. We shouldn't be so reliant on schools. I mean, I'm still reliant on school. The fact that it's not open, I'm like, I need to work. but we can do it with them here. I mean, I think that just proved that to us.
Yeah, I am in 100% agreement with everything you just said. So again, in a very similar vein, I can't look back on last year. There were some deaths, but you take the big stuff aside. I can't look back at last year and say it was an awful year, and I don't. I understand for many that it had its downs, and I'm empathetic of that. But I think for me, words are very powerful, and I think if there is this constant thing of like, over with that, and then it's almost like you're wishing your life away. And then also in 2020, I had a similar realization to you. So this show, when I had the idea for this show, I was looking at studios, like in terms of cameras and everything like that. I've got all of that, everything. So I'm looking at studios, I'm looking at sets, and there was a visual aesthetic that I was like, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. And just before the lockdown hit, I had started putting in dates to go and film people and blah, blah, blah. And then lockdown happened. It never happened. And then I would say throughout the most of lockdown, I just kind of sat back and observed, and I watched people doing stuff. And I'm very much like you. So if you had said to me this time last year, why don't you do your show via Zoom? I'm going to give you a side eye and be like, yeah, so you don't really understand what I'm trying to do here. But as you said, so the year goes on, and I'm like, okay, so now we are acclimatized, so to speak, to Zoom. And we accept, because I think it was one day I was just watching the news or GMTV, and it was just like pretty much everybody was a webcam. So I'm like, yo, so if I can, if it's not a problem for GMTV, and so really you see the importance of, I guess, substance over style. Don't get me wrong, style is still very important and whatnot have you, but sometimes you just got to get things done. And I think that was one of the biggest takeaways that I got from last year. So yeah, I really connect with you on that. You mentioned that you were doing presenting on a BBC Sounds podcast. What else is in the pipeline that you're really excited about?
So I am starting like a few new series on my own personal channel. So one is called Africa's Incredible Spaces, where I'll be going to, so I've kind of started that already, but I just didn't brand it right, if you know what I mean. I've not really branded it. So this year for me is all about branding. Like I've realized how important branding different things is. So it's going to be called Africa's Incredible Spaces, and I go to basically incredible spaces around Africa, starting in Ghana, and then I'll branch out to other countries. Really nice houses, or also something made out of natural materials. So I interviewed somebody who has made this house out of the raffia palm plant, a whole house. And it's so nice. And so that is like a low budget thing. And also it's, eco-friendly and all the rest of it. But then I've also looked at this beach house, which has, a private pool, like panoramic views of the sea, incredible, so just really unique spaces throughout Africa that you might not think are there or you might have not seen before anywhere else. And yeah, so I'm really excited about that, and those will start probably coming out next week.
Brilliant. I'll be looking forward to that. So there's two questions that I always ask everybody when they come on here. The first one is, what has been the best advice that you've always been given? You mentioned something earlier on about a song, the song lyrics, but what's the best advice you've ever been given?
This one's really cringe, and this is from when
they're usually the best ones.
You know, when I was younger, I used to always have on my MSN banner, it used to be, you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
So there's that one. But one that I heard really quite recently was, I think it's preparation plus opportunity equals success.
Amen.
So I always feel like I have to be prepared. So I need to do what I want to do. So I'm not waiting for anyone to give me any opportunities. So that preparation of, you know, building my channel, for example, and then the opportunity might come along where I meet somebody that I can ask them, you know, do you want to come on my channel? Or can I do this documentary? Something like that. So that one I really love, preparation plus opportunity equals success. And yeah, I do not hold back. So like, if I want to do something, I'm going to do it regardless of what somebody says. It might not be easy and it might not be the straight way, but I will always finish. I'm not the sort of person that says I'm going to do something and not do it. That actually annoys me to my core when people say they're going to do something.
Okay. Where do you think that has, do you think that's maybe something that's come from your mum or your dad, or do you think that's just you?
Yeah, I think it's me. I'm like very stubborn. I see it in my daughter. Right. She's exactly the same way. I'm like very stubborn. I don't really take no for an answer.
Yeah.
If somebody said no to me, of course I'm gonna like continue on. But if I really want to interview a specific person, then eventually like I'll come back around, you know, when I think the time's right.
Fair enough. Fair play. Fair play. I like that energy. So the other question is what advice would you give to Vanessa at 16?
So I really don't regret anything. I think that you have to go, I guess what I would probably say is like, you do have to go through things to get to where you're going to be, but but you will get there, you know, just keep your eye on the prize, and really some bad stuff does happen, but you just keep going, you know, like keep going. Like it might start getting muddy and it might feel like you're really having to pull your feet up, but just keep going. I guess the other thing that recently I've heard is when something starts to feel like very muddy and like you literally are struggling to like pull your feet up, maybe that isn't for you, and you need to like, you know, flip it up and do something else. So yeah, I would just say just keep going. Things happen, but you will get through it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time today. As I said, it's weird because that same energy that you mentioned when I said my name and you were like, oh, it's from Ghana, coming across your profile and just seeing everything you was doing, and then even just reaching out to you the other day, I was just like, she's quite busy. I'll just send it anyway and see what happens. And then your response and everything. So I'm really grateful for your time today, because it is, as I said, I love what you're doing, and actually I think the content that you are producing, I think is really important. I think it's really important. And as you said, people have watched that and made life-changing decisions off the back of that. And I know myself, I watch your videos as for reference of like, okay, cool, I'm thinking of doing this, I'm thinking of doing that. So yeah, so thank you very much for all of the energy that you put into that, because I know it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I think the idea that the life of a YouTuber is an easy one is starting to disappear a little, but I do still think that people think, it's a cushy number, and it's really not. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks so much for having me. I mean, even when people ask to interview me, you know, you get that sort of imposter syndrome. I was like, oh my God, like, you know, who wants to interview me? So yeah, thanks so much for wanting to interview me. No, and I really appreciate it.
That's fine. I mean, you said like probably like my big thing at the moment, and that is imposter syndrome. And I was having this conversation the other day with a friend, and up until recently, I found it absolutely impossible for somebody to pay me a compliment or just acknowledge something that I had done, because I felt like everything felt like I was being fraudulent. And it was like, no, but these are things that you have done. Like, you have literally done this thing, and I'm saying, well done for doing that thing. And I think it's because in my mind, maybe the thing that I've done it didn't quite turn out how I had wanted.
You wanted it.
And so there's that disconnect. But it is so, I mean, and again, this is somebody that's been following your content. Take your flowers, man.
Thanks.
Take your flowers.
You know, as you say that, there's something really interesting as well, that, you know, your show is called Grind, Hustle, Repeat. There's something that I feel that stops me in my tracks, and that is actually the fear of success. So I've heard other people speaking about this recently, and when I'm so close, so, you know, my next goal is 100K on YouTube, and I'm really close to that. You know, I'm 10K off. I could probably do that.
You're gonna blow that away. Yeah, you're gonna blow that away.
But when it's coming closer, I stopped uploading for 3 weeks because I went on holiday and stuff. But normally I wouldn't do that. But I feel like I almost get, just before I get to that goal, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and then I kind of feel like I just retreat. There's been moments, like one of my other main goals is to make a documentary for like TV or something. I've had that almost so close to the point where people are almost offering it to me, and then I've just like not responded, or, you know, and it's actually mental, because these are things that I've wished for. They're there, and then my body just goes into like shutdown.
Self-sabotage. It's self-sabotage. But then also, it's such a balance, I feel, because it is self-sabotage, but then also your body is also telling you something, that something may not be quite right. And that may be you reacting to that thing that may not be quite right. And so therefore you're like, no. But then also, as you were saying about going through the mud, it may just mean, right, you're going to need to go through the mud for a little bit longer. And this period is going to be a little bit harder, but once you get over the other side. So it's, I totally resonate with just everything you've just said there. But yeah, no, I mean, all I could say, again, from somebody on the outside looking in, and I know that when you've got all of the internal voices going on, it doesn't account for much. But I just think, just keep going, man, because you're there. And I know that feeling of just almost getting there and pulling up a little bit. And so I want to tell you to push through, but I also want to tell you to be, you know, you still have to listen to what your body's saying, but push through as well.
Great, thanks so much.
Listen, it's been wonderful speaking to you, and I hope this won't be the last.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks a lot.
See you later.